They didn't show up for my daughter's birthday. Not one of them. But 2 days later, my mom texted me a bill for $1,850 and said I owed the family for party costs. When I refused, my own brother called the police on me. Before I continue, if you think families should never treat each other like this, share this story and hit subscribe. You won't believe how this one ends. I'm Alice, a single mom who spent years trying to keep peace in a family that treats me like the unwanted one. My daughter Lila had just turned 7, her first real birthday party since my divorce. I decorated the backyard myself, baked cupcakes, even rented a small bounce house. I sent invitations to everyone, my mom, dad, brother, and sister. They all said they'd come, but when the day arrived, no one showed up. Not a single text. Not a call. Lila kept asking, "Mommy, when will Grandma come?" And my heart broke each time I said, "Maybe soon." She waited by the door with her pink dress and crown, holding the extra slice of cake she wanted to give to Grandma first. Hours passed. Nothing. That night, I cried in the kitchen after putting her to bed. Not because of the empty chairs, but because deep down, I wasn't even surprised. My family always found ways to make me feel small. Then, 2 days later, I got that message. My mom sent a group text. "We spent $1,850 preparing for your daughter's party. Decorations, food, and gifts. Please send your share ASAP." I blinked at the screen, confused. What preparations? They hadn't even come. When I replied, "That's ridiculous." "You didn't show up," my brother instantly chimed in. "You're lying. We canceled because you didn't confirm with us." Then my mom added, "We'll involve the authorities if you don't pay." I laughed out loud, nervous laughter, until I heard the knock at my door that night. The police. The officer said someone filed a payment dispute report against me. I felt my hands shake as I explained everything, but he looked uncertain. My daughter peeked from behind the hallway, scared. That's when I realized this wasn't just family drama anymore. They were trying to ruin me, and they had no idea I was holding something they desperately needed. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. My mom had posted on Facebook that I refused to pay back the family and was teaching my daughter to be ungrateful. Hundreds of her friends were commenting things like, "So disappointing, and how can a mother be so selfish?" For a moment, I just sat there staring at the screen, shaking. They'd humiliated me publicly, again. But this time, I wasn't the same quiet Alice they used to walk over. See, for years, I'd stayed silent while they mocked me for being a single mom. They'd call me the broke one, the mistake, the failure who couldn't keep a marriage. What they didn't know was that while they were busy gossiping, I was working 2 jobs and building something they could only dream of. A small home bakery that had quietly gone viral on TikTok. Orders were flooding in from across the country. I'd saved every dollar, registered the business under a private LLC, and even signed a contract with a major retailer. But I hadn't told anyone, not even my daughter. I wanted to surprise her once the deal was finalized, so when my brother called that afternoon shouting, "You better pay or Mom's filing fraud charges," I stayed calm. I said, "Okay, if you really think I owe you something, come to my house. Let's settle it face to face." They showed up that evening, my mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, all acting like they were doing me a favor. My mom looked around my small living room with that same disgusted expression she always had. "You really let this place go," she said. "Maybe if you had your life together, you wouldn't be embarrassing us like this." I felt Lila clutch my arm. My brother leaned forward, tossing an envelope on the table. "Pay it, or we'll file a report tomorrow." I looked at the envelope, then back at them. Something inside me snapped. For years I'd kept quiet, avoided conflict, tried to keep peace. But this time, they'd crossed a line, dragging the police into it, humiliating me online and making my daughter cry. I stood up slowly and said, "You want to talk about money? Fine, let's talk about money." Their eyes narrowed. They weren't expecting that tone from me. I walked to my kitchen drawer and pulled out a white folder, the one I'd been hiding for months. Inside were the documents for my bakery's new partnership, tax forms, and a check with more zeros than any of them had ever seen. My brother snorted. "What's that supposed to be?" "A recipe." I smiled slightly. "Actually, it's a contract. Signed last week with Sweet Life Foods. They're buying my bakery line for $480,000. Silence. You could have heard a pin drop. My mom blinked like she hadn't understood the number. My sister-in-law's jaw literally fell open. I continued. "You know that little cupcake business you all used to laugh at? The one you said was a waste of time? Turns out, it's now one of the fastest-growing small bakery brands online. So no, I'm not paying you $1,850 for a fake party. But thank you for reminding me why I stopped depending on this family." My mom's face turned red. "You're lying, Alice. You don't even have a degree in business." I held up the contract. "Maybe not, but I have something you'll never understand. Discipline." My brother muttered something about me making things up for attention, but I could see it in his eyes. He believed me. They all did. That's when my phone buzzed again. A message notification popped up from my business attorney. I opened it right in front of them. It read, "Congratulations, Alice. The funds have cleared. You're officially a business owner." I turned the screen toward them. "You wanted the police involved? Maybe we should call them now so I can report attempted fraud." My mom's voice cracked. "We didn't mean it like that. We just thought—" "No," I interrupted. "You thought I'd always stay the same. The broke, desperate one you could push around. You never once asked how I was doing, but you had no problem calling the cops on me for money I didn't owe." For once, none of them spoke. They just sat there, frozen, faces pale. Lila peeked from the hallway again, this time smiling. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she could tell Mom wasn't scared anymore. I leaned in and whispered, "You all ghosted my daughter's party. But don't worry. You'll never have to worry about an invite again." Then I opened the door and said, "Get out." They left without another word. But I had no idea that this was only round one of their revenge. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Too quiet. No texts, no calls. No Facebook drama. I thought maybe, just maybe, my family had finally accepted that I wasn't the failure they'd always called me. But one Friday morning, while packing orders in my kitchen, I heard loud knocking. Again. I opened the door, and there were two men in suits. One handed me an envelope. "You've been served," he said flatly. My stomach dropped. Inside was a lawsuit. My own family was claiming that my bakery had been funded with their money, and they were entitled to 40% ownership. My brother had even attached screenshots of old group chats, twisted out of context to make it look like they had invested in me. I couldn't breathe. They weren't just trying to humiliate me anymore. They were trying to steal what I built. That night, I called my lawyer, shaking. "Can they really do this?" he sighed. "Anyone can file a claim. But don't worry, Alice, you have proof. We'll fight this." Days later, my family posted another round of lies online, claiming I stole recipes and scammed them. They even tagged Sweet Life Foods, trying to destroy my new contract. I cried for hours that night, holding Lila close. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. But the next morning, something changed. My story, without me even realizing, had started spreading. A customer who'd followed me on TikTok made a video defending me, showing my real work and exposing my family's lies. Within a day, it had 3 million views. People flooded my page with support, commenting things like, "We stand with Alice," and "She's proof you can rise above toxic family." Even Sweet Life reposted the video, writing, "Proud to partner with independent creators like Alice. The same family that tried to bury me had accidentally made me viral." By the time our court date arrived, I wasn't the quiet, scared woman they thought they could bully. I was confident, prepared, and when I walked into that courtroom, I saw the shock on their faces as people whispered my name, recognizing me from the viral clip. The judge looked at me, then at them, and said the words I'll never forget. "There's no evidence they funded your business." "Case dismissed," my mom gasped. My brother looked like he'd seen a ghost. But I didn't smile. Not yet. because I had one last thing to say before I walked out. I stood up in the courtroom, my palms steady for the first time in years. My voice didn't shake when I turned to face them. "You know," I said quietly, "I used to think I needed your approval to be happy. I begged for your love, your time, your respect. But now I realize none of that was love. You only showed up when you thought there was something to take." My mom's eyes darted away. My brother looked down at the floor. The same people who once laughed at me now couldn't even meet my gaze. The judge nodded, handing me the signed dismissal papers. But before I left, I turned back and said, "You didn't just ghost my daughter's party. You ghosted every moment of my life that mattered. And yet here I am, stronger, richer, happier, and you're still chasing a story that's over." The courtroom was silent. When I stepped outside, flashes went off. Reporters, bloggers, people who'd followed my journey online. One asked, "Alice, what would you say to people dealing with toxic families like yours?" I smiled. "Build quietly. Let your success do the talking. And when they come for you, make sure they find nothing left to take." Over the next few months, my business exploded. Sweet Life featured my cupcakes in their nationwide campaign, and I was invited to share my story at a women's empowerment event. Lila even got to help me on stage, wearing the same pink crown from that lonely birthday party. As the applause echoed through the hall, I looked at her and whispered, "See, baby? Sometimes being ghosted is just life's way of making room for better people." She smiled up at me, proud and glowing. Later that night, my mom texted me for the first time in months. "Can we talk?" she wrote. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, "Not anymore," because for once I wasn't the one waiting by the door. They were, and this time, I wasn't opening it.